The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Federation hummed with the low-frequency vibrations of 100 different species conversing in their native tongues. The massive, domed chamber, large enough to house an Earth battleship, glittered with holographic sigils, representing the most powerful civilizations in known space. Violet and gold light pulsed through the transparent floor, illuminating the faces of delegates who hadn't bothered to hide their amusement at the day's proceedings. Captain Ryan Blake adjusted the collar of his dress uniform, the only human in a sea of alien superiority. His scars itched beneath the fabric, reminders of the Martian insurrection where he'd learned firsthand how little the galaxy thought of humanity. The podium before him had been designed for a Zephyrian's four-armed stance, forcing him to stand awkwardly close to be seen by the Assembly's visual receptors. Earth's petition for military alliance status is now under consideration, boomed High Speaker Vexlor from his elevated platform. The Zephyrian leader's chitinous exoskeleton reflected the chamber lights in prismatic patterns, his upper arms gesturing with practiced condescension. Though why the soft-fleshed primates believed themselves worthy escapes rational comprehension. Laughter rippled through the assembly. Ambassador Kreva of the Vorak uncoiled several meters of serpentine body from her floating perch, her forked tongue flicking in amusement. This species still uses chemical propulsion for their pathetic planet. Bound weapons, they haven't even mastered basic genetic augmentation. Blake's knuckles whitened around the edges of the podium. He'd prepared for this. Earth Command had warned him. But hearing the open mockery in the hall that dictated the fate of billions still sent heat crawling up his neck. With respect, Blake said, activating the universal translator embedded in his collar, humanity has fought wars for 10,000 years. We've developed strategies and technologies that... Wars? Vexlor interrupted, his mandibles clicking in derision. You call your tribal skirmishes wars. The Zephyrian Empire has maintained continuous interstellar conflict for 37 centuries. What could your primitive species possibly contribute? Holograms flickered to life above the assembly, showing grainy footage of Earth's most recent conflicts. Tanks rolling across deserts, fighter jets streaking through cloudy skies. More laughter erupted, this time from the insectoid Krix delegation, whose carapaces vibrated with amusement. Chemical projectiles, sneered a bulbous delegate from the methane worlds. How quaint. Blake watched as the footage switched to show Federation warships, kilometer-long leviathans disgorging plasma fire capable of glassing continents. The comparison was meant to humiliate. Instead, it made Blake's lips curl in a smile they wouldn't understand. These images are 50 years old, Blake said, tapping his control pad. Humanity has made advances. Enough, Vexlor declared, silencing the chamber with a wave of his upper limbs. The Federation War Council has reviewed Earth's so-called military capabilities. Our decision is unanimous. The Zephyrian's compound eyes gleamed as he delivered the verdict. Humanity is denied alliance status. Your species lacks the biological enhancements, the technological sophistication, and frankly, the temperament for interstellar warfare. Kreva coiled tighter around her perch. Go home, little monkey. Play with your sticks and stones. The grown-ups have real war to manage. The chamber erupted in what Blake recognized as various species versions of laughter, clicking mandibles, bioluminescent flashes, subsonic vibrations. He stood perfectly still, letting the wave of derision wash over him. When it subsided, he tapped his pad once more. Before I go, Blake said, his voice deceptively calm, I'm required to submit Earth's formal response to this decision. He pressed a final button. The assembly's massive holographic displays flickered, then showed a single line of text in every known language. We'll remember this. Vexlor's antennae twitched in annoyance. Is that a threat, human? Blake was already stepping away from the podium. An observation, High Speaker. Humanity has a saying about judging books by their covers. He paused at the arched exit, turning back to face hundreds of alien eyes. We'll see how your assessment holds up when someone actually tests us. The chamber fell silent as the human delegate walked out. Creever hissed to her neighbor. Brave words for a species that still bleeds red. Vexilor watched the doors seal behind Blake. Pay them no mind. Without our protection, the first real predator they encounter will wipe Earth from the galactic records. He gestured to dismiss the assembly. Let the primates play soldier in their sandbox. The Federation has actual threats to contend with. As the delegates dispersed, none noticed the small data device Blake had left behind on the podium. Its tiny indicator light pulsed quietly, transmitting every word back to a secret facility on Luna. In a bunker deep beneath the moon's surface, Admiral Lisa Hayes watched the feed with grim satisfaction. They're going to regret this, she murmured to the empty room. Behind her, something ancient stirred in its cryo chamber, a relic from Earth's darkest days. Now awakening to the sound of distant war drums, the archive smelled of ozone and ancient dust, the kind that settled into circuits and never left. Admiral Lisa Hayes stepped over the cracked power conduits, her boots clicking against the lunacrete floor. The USN had buried this place deep, beneath 3 levels of abandoned storage bays and a decommissioned fusion reactor. Only 3 people in the entire Navy still had clearance to come down here. She wiped sweat from her brow. The cooling systems had failed decades ago, leaving the chamber sweltering. Her fingers brushed against the access panel, the biometric scanner flashing red before recognizing her retinal pattern. "Welcome, Admiral Hayes," a voice hummed from the darkness. Not a human voice, something older. The lights flickered on, revealing the core, a massive blackened cube of neural processors, its surface pitted with age. Wires snaked out from it like veins connecting to dead terminals and half-collapsed server racks. At its center, a single blue pulse throbbed. "Prometheus," Hayes said. "Status report." The AI's voice crackled. "Operational capacity at Fei. Memory banks partially corrupted. Primary power offline. You are the first human to activate me in Fei years, Fei months, and Fei days." Hayes pulled a data crystal from her pocket. "I need access to the sealed records, the real ones. Not the scrubbed history the Federation thinks we believe." Prometheus pulsed. Authorization. Hayes Lisa, Admiralty Code Omega, 7-9er, unrestricted access. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the cube shuddered. Dust rained from the ceiling as ancient fans whirred to life. The blue light intensified, spreading across the terminals. "Access granted," Prometheus intoned. "Warning, the following records are classified under Earth Defense Directive 0. Knowledge of these events has been suppressed for galactic stability." The holograms flickered to life above the terminals. Hayes' breath caught Mars, not the terraformed paradise of the history vids, a wasteland of glassed craters and skeletal cities. The footage jumped, legions of armored soldiers in blackened power armor, advancing through radioactive storms. Their weapons weren't the clean energy rifles the Federation knew. These were brutal, kinetic things, firing depleted uranium slugs at hypersonic velocities. "First Martian rebellion," Prometheus narrated. "Duration, Fei years. Casualties, Fei billion. Resolution, orbital bombardment of the Tharsis Plateau." The image changed. A fleet of jagged ships, their hulls studded with railgun batteries, engaging an enemy Hayes didn't recognize. "The Centauri conflict," the AI continued. "Humanity's first extrasolar war. The enemy species is now extinct." Hayes' hands clenched. "Why don't I know about this?" "Because we lost," Prometheus said simply. "Not the war, the peace. The Federation found us afterward. Saw what we'd done. They offered us a choice, bury our past or be buried with it." Another hologram, a planet cracking apart under sustained nuclear bombardment. "The Kessler Protocol," the AI said. "When faced with extinction, human commanders will initiate total planetary annihilation rather than surrender." Hayes swallowed. "And the Federation doesn't know?" Prometheus pulsed. "They think we forgot. They think we let ourselves forget. They are wrong." The final image froze, a black flag, emblazoned with a single white symbol, a skull, wreathed in orbital trajectories. The old Earth insignia, Hayes whispered. The symbol of the unification wars, Prometheus corrected. When humanity first learned to kill on a planetary scale, the Federation banned kinetic weapons. They called them barbaric, but they never understood. Hayes reached out, her fingers passing through the hologram. Understood what? The AI's voice dropped to something almost human, that we never stopped making them. Silence. The weight of centuries pressed down on the chamber. Hayes turned toward the exit. Reactivate fully. Transfer all combat data to the Defiance's core. And Prometheus. The blue light brightened. Yes, Admiral. She didn't look back. Wake the others. The cube hummed, deep and resonant. Across the lunar surface, in vaults long sealed, other cores began to pulse in response. The Federation had never faced predators like them. Not really. Not yet. The air on New Carthage tasted like burning metal and ionized dust. Sergeant Jake Morrison wiped sweat from his brow, the motion smearing grime across his faceplate. His HUD flickered, systems failing one by one. Around him the colony burned. Prefab housing units collapsed in showers of sparks. The Vorak swarm had hit at dawn, a tidal wave of chitin and claws that washed over the perimeter defenses, like they were nothing. Morrison checked his rifle, 3 rounds left. Head started the day with a full squad. Now, he was the last one standing. A screech echoed through the ruined streets. Morrison ducked behind a collapsed generator, his breath ragged. The Vorak were close. He could hear them, hundreds of skittering legs, mandibles clicking in that eerie synchronized rhythm. The Federation had declared New Carthage untenable 6 hours ago. No reinforcements, no evacuation, just a cold, bureaucratic dismissal over the comms before the channel went dead. Typical, Morrison muttered. A shadow moved at the edge of his vision. He spun, rifle up, but it was just a piece of debris tumbling in the wind. His hands shook, not from fear, from adrenaline, from the old familiar rush. Another screech. Closer this time, Morrison exhaled. All right, you ugly bastards, let's dance. He moved low and fast, darting between cover. The Vorak had taken the colony's command center, but they hadn't found the underground munitions depot yet. Morrison slid down a service ramp, his boots kicking up dust. The depot was dark, the emergency lights casting long shadows. Rows of fusion cores lined the walls, each one humming softly. He grinned. The Vorak didn't understand human ingenuity. They didn't understand that when you backed a man into a corner, he didn't just fight, he got creative. Morrison grabbed a fusion core, hefting its weight. He tapped the control panel, setting the overload sequence. 30 seconds. He moved to the next one. Then the next. A crash echoed from above. The Vorak had found him. Morrison didn't stop. He kept working, fingers flying over the panels. The screeching grew louder. Claws scraped against metal. The first Vorak dropped through the ceiling, its segmented body unfolding like a nightmare. Then another. And another. Morrison turned. Rifle raised. He fired 1 round. 2. The third Vorak went down, its carapace splintering. The rest kept coming. He backed against the wall, out of ammo, out of time. The fusion cores beeped in unison. 10 seconds left. The lead Vorak, an Alpha Prime, loomed over him. Its mandibles flexed, dripping some kind of corrosive fluid. You are alone. Soft thing, it hissed. The words translated through Morrison's cracked helmet speakers. Morrison smirked. He tapped the final detonator. Yeah, he said, that's how we like it. The world turned white. The explosion ripped through the depot, then the colony above it. The shockwave flattened buildings, sent Vorak bodies flying like leaves in a storm. The fireball climbed into the sky, a beacon visible from orbit. On the bridge of the nearest Federation observation ship, a Zephyrian officer stared at the readings in disbelief. That colony was supposed to be defenseless, he muttered. His subordinate swallowed hard. Sir, the human, I know what he did, the officer snapped. Silence filled the bridge far below. In the ashes of New Carthage, something stirred. A single broken helmet cam flickered to life, transmitting its final feed. Morrison's voice crackled over the static. Tell the Federation, we don't need their help. Then nothing, the feed cut out. The Zephyrian officer turned away from the screen, his exoskeleton trembling for the first time in his life. He felt something unfamiliar. The bridge of the USN Defiance hummed with restrained energy, every console glowing with tactical readouts. Admiral Lisa Hayes stood before the main holographic display, her sharp eyes scanning the asteroid field that concealed their fleet. The jagged rocks spun lazily, perfect cover for what was about to unfold. Captain Ryan Blake stepped onto the bridge, his boots clicking against the deck. The scars on his face caught the dim light, reminders of battles the Federation had never bothered to learn about. Status report, he said, his voice calm but edged with something darker. Hayes didn't look up. Zephyrian cruiser just entered the belt, scouting pattern. They're looking for us, Blake smirked. Let them find us. The crew exchanged glances. They'd been drilling for this moment for years, ever since the Federation had dismissed humanity as a backwater species. The Defiance wasn't like the massive, ornate dreadnoughts of the Galactic Federation. It was lean, brutal, built for speed and killing. Hayes finally turned to Blake. You sure about this? Once we fire, Therese no going back. Blake's smile didn't reach his eyes. They made that decision when they left New Carthage to burn. A proximity alarm blared. The Zephyrian cruiser had adjusted course, its long-range scanners sweeping the asteroids. On the display, its silhouette pulsed with energy, overconfident. Arrogant, lock railguns, Blake ordered. The weapons officer's fingers flew across his console. Target acquired, range optimal. Hayes crossed her arms. They still think we fight by their rules. Blake leaned forward, watching the cruiser drift closer. Let's remind them we don't have any. The Defiance's railguns charged with a deep, resonant whine. The sound built, vibrating through the deck plates. A predator coiling to strike. The Zephyrian cruiser's comms suddenly crackled to life. A haughty voice filled the bridge. Unidentified vessel. This is the Zephyrian warship Dawn of Supremacy. Power down your weapons and prepare for boarding. Resistance will be met with... Blake cut the transmission with a gesture. Fire, the railguns unleashed. Tungsten slugs tore through space at a fraction of light speed. The Dawn of Supremacy had no time to react. Its shields flared for a millisecond before collapsing. The slugs punched clean through its hull, detonating internal reactors in a chain reaction. The explosion lit up the asteroid field, casting jagged shadows across the Defiance's hull. Debris spun outward, some of it slamming into nearby rocks. Silence settled over the bridge. Then slowly the crew began to cheer. Hayes didn't join them. She watched the wreckage, her expression unreadable. They'll send more. Blake nodded. Good. A new alert flashed on the display. Long-range sensors picked up multiple contacts, Federation signatures. Moving fast reinforcements. Hayes exhaled. They're scrambling the entire 7th Fleet. Blake didn't look worried. He tapped his comm. All ships, this is Defiance, actual battle stations. Prepare for hostile engagement. Across the belt, hidden among the asteroids, other human vessels powered up. Not massive capital ships, but sleek hunters, fast, vicious, built for ambush. The USN had spent decades designing them in secret, learning from every war Earth had ever fought. Hayes studied the tactical feed. They outnumber US 10 to 1. Blake adjusted his sidearm, then we'll have to make each shot count. The first Federation ships emerged from warp, their formations perfect, their commanders no doubt expecting surrender. Their comms blared demands, threats, orders to stand down. Blake ignored them. He opened a fleet, wide channel. Humanity's been called weak, primitive, unworthy of standing with the great species of the galaxy. His voice hardened. Today, we show them what happens when you push predators into a corner. The Defiance's engines roared to life. Across the belt, human ships broke cover, accelerating toward the Federation fleet. Hayes gripped the railing. They think war is about honor. Blake's grin was all teeth. We know it's about winning. The first volley of missiles streaked through the void. The battle for Sol had begun. The Zephyrian armada emerged from warp in perfect formation, their golden hulls gleaming against the black of space. 200 capital ships, each larger than anything Earth had ever built. Fleet Commander Dralkan adjusted his command harness, his chitinous fingers dancing across the holographic display. Bring all primary weapons to bear on their orbital defenses, he commanded. Let them see the might of the Federation before we grant them mercy. On the bridge of the USN Defiance, Admiral Hayes watched the tactical display bloom with hostile contacts. All units, combat stations, she said, her voice calm. Execute Protocol Midnight. Across the solar system, hidden within asteroid clusters and behind the moons of gas giants, human ships powered up for the first time in decades. Dralkan's communications officer stiffened. Commander, we're detecting multiple energy signatures across the system, far more than intelligence predicted. Scout ships, Dralkan scoffed. Primitive reaction drives, nothing our shields can't handle. He opened a channel to Earth. Human Defense Forces, this is Fleet Commander Dralkan of the Galactic Federation Armada. You are ordered to stand down and surrender all military assets. Resistance will be met with the transmission cut off as 300 railgun rounds struck the lead Zephyrian cruiser simultaneously. The ship's forward shields flared and collapsed in less than a second, its armored prow crumpling like paper. Dralkan's mandibles clicked in shock. What was that? Captain Blake's face appeared on every Zephyrian view screen, his image flickering with static. You came here expecting a surrender, he said. We prepared a different welcome. Behind him, the Defiance's weapon ports glowed red. Hot from the initial barrage, space around the Federation, fleet erupted with movement, not the lumbering dreadnoughts they expected, but sleek human vessels barely a tenth the size of their own ships. They moved in swarms, their angular hulls reflecting no light, their engines burning cold. Dralkan's tactical display lit up with thousands of contacts. Where did all these missile launch? Screamed his weapons officer. Hundreds of them. No, thousands. The first wave struck before the Zephyrians could reorient their point defenses. Smart munitions weaved through the defensive fire, each one adjusting course at the last second to strike shield emitters and weapon mounts. Secondary explosions rippled across the Federation formation as ammunition stores cooked off. Return fire. Dralkan bellowed. Destroy them all. Zephyrian plasma cannons lanced out, vaporizing dozens of human ships. But for every one destroyed, 3 more took its place. The smaller human vessels moved like insects, their movements unpredictable, their attacks relentless. A swarm of drone fighters descended on a battleship, their fusion warheads detonating in sequence along its spine, until the mighty vessel split in 2. Dralkan watched in horror as his fleet's perfect formation disintegrated. This makes no tactical sense. They're sacrificing ships by the dozen. On the Defiance's bridge, Admiral Hayes monitored the battle with grim satisfaction. They still don't understand, she murmured. We built these ships to be expendable. She tapped her console. All hunter-killer groups, execute Phase 2. The remaining human ships suddenly broke off their attacks, retreating toward the inner system. Dralkan let out a triumphant hiss. They're running pursue and destroy. His tactical officer hesitated. Commander, their retreat vector leads directly past. The USN Atlantica emerged from behind Mars like a specter of death. The massive carrier had been waiting silently, its engines cold, its weapons charged. As the pursuing Zephyrian ships closed in, the Atlantica's captain opened a channel. For New Carthage, was all he said before engaging the emergency thrusters. Dralkan's eyes widened as he realized the human ship's trajectory. Evasive maneuvers. All ships, the Atlantica struck the Zephyrian flagship at 30% light speed. The kinetic impact alone vaporized both vessels instantly. the resulting shockwave crippling nearby ships. Secondary explosions rippled through the Federation formation as debris became shrapnel. On Earth's orbital defense platforms, technicians cheered as the brilliant flash lit up their screens. Captain Blake didn't celebrate. He watched the tactical display as the remaining human ships regrouped. All units prepare final assault. Leave none alive. Dral Khan's surviving ships floundered, their formations broken, their commanders panicking. The human vessels attacked again, this time with terrifying precision. Railgun rounds punched through weakened shields. Boarding pods latched onto crippled ships, unleashing armored marines who fought with berserk fury. One Zephyrian cruiser attempted to flee, only to be intercepted by 3 human destroyers that tore it apart like wolves bringing down prey. The fleet commander stared at the carnage unfolding around him. His once proud armada was being systematically dismantled by a species the Federation had deemed militarily inferior. His communications officer turned to him, antennae quivering. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the human flagship." Blake's face appeared again, his expression cold. "You came to our home thinking this would be a police action," he said. "Now you understand your mistake." Behind him, the Defiance's main cannon powered up, its magnetic coils humming with lethal energy. This is how humans wage war. The final barrage lasted 17 minutes. When it ended, the wreckage of the Federation armada drifted in high orbit, a graveyard of shattered hulls and broken pride. On the Defiance's bridge, Admiral Hayes allowed herself a small smile. "Signal all ships," she ordered. "Battle of Seoul is concluded. Humanity stands victorious." Far below, on the surface of Earth, the first war drums began to beat. The bridge of the USN Defiance hummed with quiet intensity, the crew moving with the precision of those who had stared death in the face and laughed. Captain Ryan Blake stood before the main view screen, his reflection staring back at him from the blood-streaked glass. Behind him, the wreckage of the Federation fleet drifted in silent testament to humanity's wrath. "Signal from Zenthara Prime, sir," Comms Officer Chen reported, her voice tight. "High Speaker Vexlaw is requesting an immediate audience." Blake's lips curled into something too sharp to be called a smile. "Put him through." The screen flickered to life, revealing the Zephyrian leader's chitinous face. The shifting colors of his exoskeleton had dulled to a sickly gray fear for those who knew how to read it. Behind him, the Grand Assembly Hall was in chaos, alien delegates shouting over one another in a dozen languages. "Captain Blake," Vexlaw began, his voice lacking its usual condescension. "This conflict has gone too far. The Federation is willing to discuss terms." Blake crossed his arms, the scars on his knuckles catching the dim light. "Funny, 3 days ago, you called us soft, fleshed weaklings. Now you want to talk." A murmur ran through the bridge crew. Admiral Hayes stepped forward, her gaze icy. "Where was this diplomacy when you glassed New Carthage? When you left Sergeant Morrison and his people to die?" Vexlaw's mandibles twitched, a regrettable tactical withdrawal. "Bullshit," Blake snapped. The word hung in the air like a live grenade. "You thought we'd roll over, that we'd beg for mercy." He leaned closer to the screen. "But you forgot one thing." The Zephyrian's compound eyes flickered. "And what is that?" Blake turned to tactical. "Lieutenant, show them." A new image replaced Vexlaw's face, a live feed from Earth's orbital defense grid, hundreds of human warships. Their railguns humming with charged energy, targeting solutions locked onto Zenthara Prime. The bridge fell silent as the weight of the moment settled. Then Blake spoke again, his voice carrying across every open channel in the galaxy. "You banned us because we were savages." His fingers tightened into fists. "Now you see what savages can do." On Zenthara Prime, panic erupted. The Federation's vaunted unity shattered as species turned on one another, scrambling for escape pods, for treaties, for anything that might spare them from the storm about to break. Vexlaw's image reappeared, his exoskeleton now a sickly white. "You wouldn't dare. Billions of innocents. Hayes cut in. Like the colonists on New Carthage? Like the millions you've enslaved under Federation rule? She shook her head. We're not like you. We won't slaughter civilians, but make no mistake. If you force our hand, we'll burn your fleets from the sky. Blake stepped back, his voice dropping to a lethal calm. Here are your options. High Speaker, you can surrender unconditionally, or you can test how far we're willing to go. The screen flickered again, this time showing a live feed from across the galaxy. Human ships appearing at every major Federation world, their weapons hot, their crews ready. Vex'law's mandibles clicked uselessly. This is madness. No, Blake said, turning away. This is war. The transmission cut across the bridge. The crew exhaled as one. Hayes moved to Blake's side, her voice low. They'll break, they have to. Blake watched the stars through the view screen, his reflection superimposed over the infinite dark. Doesn't matter if they do. The galaxy's seen the truth now. Outside, the wreckage of the Federation fleet continued its slow, silent dance. A warning written in fire and steel. Humanity had come to play. The Grand Assembly Hall was silent. The same violet and gold banners still shimmered overhead, but the mocking laughter that once filled the chamber had vanished. Captain Ryan Blake stepped onto the central platform, his boots clicking against the polished floor. The sound echoed like gunfire in the dead air. Every eye in the chamber followed him. High Speaker Vex'law's chitinous exoskeleton twitched, his forearms folded tight against his torso. Ambassador Creever's serpentine coils had gone rigid. The holographic displays that once showed Earth's primitive military now flickered with the wreckage of the Federation fleet, burning husks drifting in the void around Sol. Blake stopped at the podium, the same one had been laughed from weeks ago. He didn't adjust the height this time. He let them look down at him. You wanted to see humanity's weakness, he said, his voice calm. Now you've seen our strength. A murmur rippled through the assembly. One of the younger delegates, a slender Tarkian, dared to speak. This was not warfare. This was butchery. Blake's smile was cold. No, butchery is what comes next. High Speaker Vex'law finally found his voice. You cannot threaten the entire Federation. We have thousands of ships, and we have nothing left to lose. Blake interrupted. He tapped a command into his wrist display. The central hologram shifted, zooming out to show the Milky Way. Red markers flared to life, hundreds of them. These are our dead. Every colony burned, every ship destroyed, every man, woman, and child who died because you deemed us unworthy of survival. The markers kept spreading, more and more, until the galaxy seemed to bleed. Ambassador Creever hissed. What do you want? Blake reached into his jacket. The movement made half the delegates flinch. He pulled out a single data crystal, holding it up between two fingers. This is our answer. He dropped it. The crystal hit the floor with a click. A hologram erupted above it, a single word, burning red against the dark. Never. Silence. Then the screens around the hall flickered again. This time, they showed Earth's remaining fleet. The US in defiance, its railguns humming. The Atlanticus wreckage, still glowing from its suicide charge. A dozen more ships, scarred but unbroken. Their weapons locked onto Zenthara Prime. Blake leaned forward, his voice a whisper that carried to every corner of the chamber. You thought war had rules. You thought honor mattered. But we invented war. We perfected it. High Speaker Vex'law's mandibles trembled. You'll destroy yourselves, Blake straightened. Maybe, but we'll take you with us. The hologram shifted once more. A countdown appeared. Fate hours. Blake turned and walked away. No one stopped him. No one dared. Behind him, the words still burned in the air. Never. And across the galaxy, from the ruins of New Carthage to the silent halls of Earth's last cities, a single sound began to rise. War drums. The galaxy had believed Earth was primitive. Now they knew the truth. Humans were born for war.